Queen Valthera of Zarkanar reclined on her throne, carved from the bones of extinct sky serpents. Her harem lounged below, 30 genetically perfected consorts from across the galaxy, men and women alike. She was feared, adored, and unconquered. The galaxy knew her as the Sapphire Empress. So when the guards dragged in the latest challenger, a filthy, scarred human with a dented blade and no armor, she couldn't help but laugh. "You're the one they sent from Terra," she said, her voice like silk laced with venom. "You're smaller than my pets." The court erupted in cruel laughter. The human didn't flinch. His eyes scanned the room: stone, warriors, weapons. "Name's Kale," he said, spitting blood onto the marble. "I came for your throne." "And what will you do with it, earthworm?" She sneered. "Throw mud at it." "I'll sit on it. After I break your crown in half." The laughter stopped. One of her generals stepped forward, voice thick with fury. "I will flay him for you, my queen." But she raised a hand. "No. Let the little savage try." 2. The Duel. The dueling arena was an obsidian pit ringed with plasma chains and ancient runes. The queen descended herself, shedding her silk robes for a skin-tight combat suit that shimmered with energy. Her body was lithe, inhumanly fast. She was a master of 14 martial arts and her strikes had shattered spines. Kale's armor was scraps. His sword, old, Terran steel. But when they clashed, the queen's smirk vanished. He was faster than expected. Brutal. Efficient. He didn't fight with elegance, he fought to end it. She struck him with a plasma blade. He screamed but advanced. He kicked her off balance, elbowed her throat, drove her into the wall. She snarled, summoned psionic flames, and engulfed him. He rolled, burning, skin blistering, and still came. "Why won't you fall?" she shouted, panting, blood in her teeth. Kale grinned through broken lips. "I buried 6 warlords for less than what you said." In a flash, he dropped low, sweeping her legs. She fell hard. His sword came down, not to kill, but to pin her cape to the floor. She struggled, but he stood over her. Silence fell. And then, "I yield," she hissed. 3. The throne is taken. Kale limped up the steps, still bleeding, still smoking. He sat on the throne. It was warm from her body. The harem below looked up at him with stunned expressions. Valthera stood at the foot of the dais, head bowed. "By our customs," she said, her voice taut, "you own the throne. You own me. You own the royal harem. All of it." Kale looked down at her. "I didn't come to own anyone." She looked up, eyes flashing. "But you do." That night, the galaxy saw its first human emperor of Zarkanar. 4. The harem of fire and ice. Kale didn't understand the palace at first. Every consort in the harem had been trained for seduction, diplomacy, war, or assassination. They weren't lovers, they were weapons of influence. There was Iskari, the flame dancer from Velnis Prime, who could melt metal with her kisses. Thorn, the half-cybernet who spoke only through blades. Nareen, an empath who cried other people's tears. Roge, a silent monk whose touch healed or killed. And Valthera herself, now stripped of title, was the most dangerous of them all. Each night, one approached Kale. Not always for pleasure, sometimes for knowledge, tests, poison. But he didn't bend easily. He trained in the mornings, bled on the floor, and learned their tongues. Soon they stopped testing. They started following. 5. The Queen's humbling. Valthera refused to admit it, but she watched him with grudging admiration. He didn't abuse power. He listened. He fought his own battles. He didn't sleep with the harem, not at first, not until each offered themselves without obligation. One night, she entered his chamber, uninvited. I thought you'd be a tyrant, she said. I thought you'd try to kill me in my sleep. I did. Twice. You snored through the poison. Kale chuckled. She circled him. So what do you want, Kale of Terror? Why sit a throne of bones? I want peace. Valthera laughed bitterly. There is no peace. Not here. Then I'll make it. She stared into his eyes, then leaned in close. You can take my throne, human. But you'll never take my soul. He met her gaze. I don't want your soul, Valthera. He paused. I want your loyalty. 6. The War Council. The Empress's old enemies gathered, draconic admirals, gas-breathing princes, and the hive kings of Zelgor. They had seen Valthera fall and now smelled weakness. But Kale anticipated the storm. He summoned the harem, not as decoration, but as commanders. Iskari led the aerial fleets. Thorn designed orbital traps. Roge cured the wounded faster than ships could bring them. Nareen tracked the enemy's emotional shifts like sonar. And Valthera. She stood by Kale's side, speaking strategy, whispering names of traitors. Why are you helping me? He asked her. Because if you fall, I have to marry whoever kills you. They shared a rare laugh. Then the war began. 7. The Battle of 9 Suns. The enemies came with a fleet of 1,000 warships, surrounding Zarkanar's solar system. Kale didn't wait for them to land. He struck first. Using old Terran tactics mixed with Valthera's forbidden knowledge, Kale led a multi-front ambush. Kamikaze drones from the southern moons detonated over dreadnoughts. Saboteurs, trained by Thorn, detonated the core reactors of enemy flagships. Kale fought in orbit himself, boarding a cruiser, slaughtering his way to its brain hub with nothing but a plasma axe. He was everywhere. A blur. A myth. Valthera watched the live feed from the war room, her fists clenched. He's going to die, she whispered. But he didn't. 8. The Aftermath. The galaxy fell silent. The enemies sued for peace. Kale stood on the balcony of the palace, bathed in golden light. Below, 100,000 Zarkanari chanted his name. Beside him stood Valthera, dressed not as a queen, but as a general. He turned to her. They adore you too. She smiled, a real one. Not like they do you. You hate that. I did. And now. She took his hand. I don't want the throne back. He raised an eyebrow. I want to build something better. With you. 9. The throne reforged. Weeks passed. The throne of bones was melted down, reforged with crystal and steel, embedded with both the human and Zarkanari emblems. Kale and Valthera ruled together, not as king and conquered queen, but as equals. The harem was no longer a passive collection, they were now the Emperor's circle. Advisors. Leaders. Guardians of the realm. Kale finally took Valthera to his bed, not as a prize, but as a partner. You once said I'd never take your soul, he whispered. She smiled against his skin. You didn't. I gave it. 10. The Final Laugh. Years later, when historians asked Queen Valthera how it had all changed, how a single human had overthrown an empire with nothing but grit and steel, she only laughed. I laughed at the human warrior, she said, sipping wine on her shared throne. Then he took everything. But. She smiled sideways at Kale, now her husband, co-ruler, and war legend. But I gave it willingly.